Extracting petroleum. The energy we get from oil runs most homes and businesses around the world. The process used to extract oil, or petroleum, from the ground is quite complex. First, the oil must be located. Then wells are drilled and the oil is taken out of the ground. The oil is then transported to countries around the world that use it for energy. These steps alone require a tremendous amount of machinery and skill. Once the oil is out of the ground, it must then be refined into a usable form. Refining oil is a process by which any impurities are removed from it. This process occurs on the molecular level. All of this happens before gas can be pumped into our cars or used to power the lights in our houses. These two acts are so common in our daily lives that we often do not think about the oil used in order to complete them. There is much that goes on before oil turns into a product we can use. What is oil? The oil found under Earth's surface is called crude oil. In this context, crude means unprocessed. Crude oil is a fossil fuel, which means it was produced naturally over millions of years from decaying plants and animals. Most of these organisms were marine animals that died millions of years ago. At that time, the planet was covered in ocean waters. Over millions of years, the dead organisms fossilized, were compressed, and turned into oil. Oil products are sometimes called hydrocarbons because they contain a mixture of hydrogen and carbon. Locating oil. Humans likely first found and used oil in China. This oil was probably found in pools on Earth's surface. In the 1800s, a man named Edwin Drake drilled what is thought to be the first oil well near Oil Creek, Pennsylvania. However, the increase in oil exploration started in the early 1900s when the invention of the automobile created a new and growing market for oil. This new need for oil led to the development of processes to reliably locate oil deposits. Today, scientists called geologists are very important to the process of locating oil. Geologists are scientists who study the types and structures of rocks on Earth. To locate oil, geologists first conduct serial surveys using airplanes and satellites to review geographic formations. Then they create geologic maps. These maps mark certain formations, including surface rock and terrain, which may contain oil. The most reliable way to find oil is to use a seismic survey. A seismic survey involves sending a shock wave or vibration through miles of rock. Geologists study how this vibration moves through layers of rock, hoping to find areas where oil is trapped in the rock. When the shock waves reach an area with oil, those waves bounce off the oil and go back up to the surface at a specific frequency. On the surface, the geologists use supercomputers to display the data in a three-dimensional format. This amazing technology shows the interior of Earth miles beneath the surface and displays where the oil sources are. In particular, the geologists look for traps or faults. These are areas underground where hydrocarbons or oil are located. These same techniques can be used for ocean oil exploration as well. Exploratory drilling. The next step is to find out if the oil deposit is worth developing. That is done with a process called exploratory drilling. In this process, several holes are drilled into Earth's surface. Drill pipes are put into the ground with a drill bit at the tip of each pipe. Drilling fluid, or mud, is then injected through the pipe and into the ground. It circulates from the surface to the depth of the pipe and back to the surface. This helps stabilize the pressure beneath the surface. It also flushes out the bits of surrounding rock. When hydrocarbons are found, the geologists conduct well tests to determine the pressure and flow of the deposit. If few or no hydrocarbons are found, the well is sealed with cement. Making permanent wells. If geologists think there is enough oil and pressure, the exploratory wells become more permanent, built to last for as long as the oil underground does. This process uses many of the same techniques that are used in exploratory drilling. However, building permanent wells requires more complex equipment and additional steps. First, workers dig a pit, called a cellar, around the permanent drilling hole. This gives the workers space for equipment. Then they drill the main hole and line it with the wide conductor pipe. To the side of the main hole, the workers dig additional holes for storage and waste. Finally, the remaining equipment is set up. The equipment used to extract oil makes up a structure called an oil rig. The oil rig must control all the fluid during extraction. These are some of the main parts of an oil rig. Derrick surrounds the oil well and secures the equipment. Power system powers the flow of mud into the pipes, sometimes run by an electrical generator. Mechanical system includes the drilling equipment such as the casing, drill string, collar, and bit. Circulation system pumps the mud under pressure through the pipes. Blowout preventer prevents explosions by closing around a drill to seal a well under too much pressure. Once the oil rig is set up, it can begin extracting hydrocarbon fluid from the ground. Initially, underground pressure forces the fluid to the surface. At some point, however, the oil may not be able to reach the surface on its own. Workers may need to use other techniques to get the oil. For example, they may use pumps to bring the fluid to the surface. They may also inject steam into the ground. This steam heats the fluid underground, making it flow more easily to the surface. Transporting oil. The hydrocarbon fluid that is brought to the surface contains oil, natural gas, water, and other elements, including hydrogen sulfide. The fluid must be processed before it is transported. Because the crude oil extracted from the ground is still under pressure, it must be depressurized. Then it is sent to a gas separation plant. In the plant, the oil, water, and gas are separated. Then the oil goes to a stabilization holding area. At this point, the hydrogen sulfide is removed. After the depressurization and separation, the oil can be transported. The oil is sent to oil storage and loading facilities. If the oil is to be shipped to points on shore, it is loaded into oil carrying trucks. If it is to be shipped offshore, it is loaded onto ships called oil tankers. Oil may also be transported by pipeline, sometimes over great distances. At this point in the extraction process, oil can also be further refined. There are many ways we use oil, and refining it changes it into these different forms of oil. Refining oil allows people to make jet fuel, automobile fuel, oils for lubricating machines, and so on. Crude oil production on a huge scale can be seen at the Abqaiq facility in Saudi Arabia. This plant handles incoming crude oil from one of the biggest producing fields in the world, the Ghawar field. It produces 7 million barrels of oil each day. The Abqaiq plant is linked to an oil field in Shabia through a 395-mile pipeline. It is also linked to the Yanbu export area through another pipeline for natural gas. Facilities like this one distribute huge amounts of oil around the world. They are vital producers for countries like the United States, providing oil to fuel cars, heat homes, and run businesses. Extracting oil is a necessary part of modern life. Oil is needed to power our lives. It fuels our cars, helps factories run efficiently, and allows us to fly on planes. Although we all need oil, its extraction and transportation is not without risk. Several large oil spills in recent history have highlighted this fact. The Deepwater Horizon oil spill occurred in 2010 when an oil rig exploded. This explosion sent nearly 5 million barrels of oil into the Gulf of Mexico. Another spill, the Exxon Valdez, occurred in Alaska in 1989. This spill was caused by a tanker running aground. Both of these spills show that people must take great care in the extraction and transportation of oil.